Hello and welcome to Denmark, part 2 of the Scandinavian series. Hope you guys enjoyed Sweden last week and some of that Viking stuff. We got some more of that coming your way this week. There's a Viking Moot apparently in that close by Viking Museum, so we're gonna check that out. I'm excited to show you guys what Denmark is like, and let's jump right into it, huh? Alright, checking into you live here from the Mosegaard Viking Moot. It's like right along the beach here. There was a little Viking boat here earlier, and then up on the hill there's the little festival grounds. And then the festival grounds, there's all kinds of stuff. There were bards playing music with drums and strings and whatnot. It was a lot of fun. They had some different acts and different groups. And then there was people doing all sorts of different crafts. There was a brewer there that was making traditional Viking beer. It's kind of cool. He was going through the whole process, saying how that's what everyone drank back then because it was safer to drink than the water. There was a guy skinning a rabbit. There was rope makers and leather workers. There was a station where you could make little pieces of flatbread. That was a lot of fun. There was a place that was selling different meads. So kind of like a Renaissance fair-esque vibe, but it was a lot more immersive because we're in Denmark. So it was really fun to see and be a part of that. They're telling all kinds of stories on this rock circle, but it was all in Danish, so we didn't understand much, but they had some music going and it was fun to listen to the music and just hear and be a part of it. And all these people are, you know, true Nordic descendants, and so it's kind of fun to be a part of this. There's also a museum here in Mosegaard that's a big Viking museum, so we're going to check that on out here in a little bit. If you guys get the chance, look something up like this. So hope you enjoyed that little immersion into history, and we're going to get going on with the next bit. Alright, next stop, this place called Aarhus Street Food. This big place, kind of like Markthalle 9 in Berlin. From the last video, if you saw that one. If you haven't, I'll put it one of these at the very end. Stick around and I'll show you Berlin. But it's this huge food hall full of all the street food. There's everything from empanadas to Italian food, pizza, some Turkish restaurants. There's this duck fries that we got. Those were super good. Fries made with duck fat, loved it. There's everything you could think of. They have a little beer stall. I love Turkish food, and you don't always get that in the US, so I'm going crazy on it here. Definitely recommend Aarhus Street Food. Super fun stop, and it's right across the street from the bus station, so make sure you come check it out. So anyways, we're gonna get on with it. Show you another cool fun stop here. Alright guys, now we're at a kind of little park thing called Gamle By. I'll put a link in the description below. It's kind of like that place we went to in the Sweden video last week, if you watched that, where it's this park that's a little bit kind of like a pioneered park, where it takes you through the history of Aarhus, and there's some examples of buildings from like the 16 and 1800s up until like the 1920s, and then there's even a part that's decorated to be like the 1970s. So it's kind of just this view of the past of Aarhus and what it was like to live here in the different periods. There's a bookbinder and an old blacksmith. You get some treats and stuff from an old-time bakery. You can take a little carriage ride throughout the whole area, so it's kind of fun. A lot going on there. Little kids building little wooden boats and then playing with it in the river. So it's a good little environment. It was about $24 to enter, so it wasn't too bad. There's different price tiers for adults and students and kids and whatnot. If you are looking for a fun little kid-friendly stop, this is definitely it. I mean, even if you're not kids, me and my other 28-year-old buddy here, fun walk through history. It doesn't have to do with all the Viking Age stuff, but for the most part, everything's Viking Age, so we're gonna get back into some of that here now. Alright, just made it out of the Mosegaard Museum, which is really cool. So it has a lot of stuff about Danish history, where they came from, kind of leading up and how they got here. So for someone, especially like me from America, that knows like that much about Danish history, it was really fascinating to see kind of like the depth it went into about how it used to be covered with an ice sheet, and it started with nomadic people coming to hunt reindeer, these, you know, hunter-gatherers, and they kind of went in through Bronze Age and the Iron Age, the whole Viking Age. It was a really cool, fascinating museum the whole way through. It was kind of dark, and it just kept you wanting to go further and further, and they had lots of artifacts from each of the different periods, and they really immersed you in those things. They had Danish audio, but they also had headphones for English audio. Everything you could do in both languages, and then right now, they've got a really cool exhibit about the Rus Vikings. So we went and discovered a bit about them. So it talks a lot about how Scandinavians journeyed east into Russia and current-day Ukraine, and that's where the name Rus comes from, Rusland. It talks about the importance of the Byzantine Empire and how Baghdad and Constantinople and some other cities in that area were head of the world at the time and the big powerhouses of economy, and how they used the Vikings for tax collecting and really just like the muscle of their empires. So it was fascinating to see. There's a town in Ukraine that they can trace their ancestry back to, like Scandinavia, these graves that they found at the time. It's really fascinating to see kind of just how far the world's traveled, and it's really interesting to see because when you think about 8th, 9th, 10th century, you don't really think about that part of the world, and it's really fascinating to see, right? It's more than just the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, what was going on in England and France with knights and stuff, which is great, I love it, right? But you get to see a little bit more, which I love, because right, you think of Turkey these days, it's like, oh, that's so beautiful. Thinking about those civilizations way back in history was fascinating, kind of opened up a new part of my mind. So I really love that. Hope you guys enjoyed that little trip in there. So that does it for today, but we got a little bit more to this video, and a little bit more to Denmark, so stick around. We're gonna go catch some Z's in the Airbnb and see you tomorrow. But for you, it's gonna be a quick time warp. 1, 2, 3. Whoa, time warp. Moved in time and space. You're now the next day here in Ribe or Ribe. I'm not sure exactly how to say it in the proper way. It's spelled Ribe in English, R-I-B-E. And it's one of the oldest towns in Scandinavia, actually. It might be the oldest. And it's an old Viking settlement from way back when. And it's kind of a fun little holiday destination. It seems like it's a small town and it is pretty well preserved. And you definitely get all the old town vibes, and it's super kind of cool and quaint. We're staying, in fact, in a little inn, kind of like you would in Dungeons and Dragons or something like that. There's a little bar and cafe underneath, and then there's this old-timey little room upstairs, and it was super fun to check in. And it's right in the heart of where this big town church is, and it's really cool to look out in the courtyard and see it all, and you walk around the town and you get that feeling, you know, that medieval town feeling. It's a little late in the day. We had to travel today, so we missed a few opportunities, but they have a Viking museum here, as it's one of the oldest Viking settlements ever, and the witch hunt museum that you can check out. Really wanted to check out the witch hunt museum, thought that'd be fascinating to see, but ran out of time. But we're still gonna get up to some fun here and show you a little bit about the city. And just in the town center, there's a free little exhibit that talks about the history of the Ribe Church and Cathedral, St. Mary's Cathedral here, dedicated to Virgin Mary, of course. They unearthed a bit of a structure from ages ago. I think it was from the 12th century, but the earliest knowledge of the church dates back to 855. It was the first one was made out of wood, and they have some different layers of superpositioned kind of stuff where they found different artifacts and whatnot. You can learn all about that. And it's cool, it's free, you just walk on in. It's a glass building, it's pretty cool. And also, there's a free walking tour you can do. It starts at 8 o'clock every night from May until about August, led by an old town Nightwatchman. He's got a big pike and everything that he carries with him and tells you all about the history of the town. It's kind of cool. It's worth checking out. They meet right in front of the place that we're staying in the old town center. Go there, you'll see a big group of people. Alright, last stop of the video, Riberhus. It's a little island with, it used to have a castle on top, and it has a moat around it. Some of the earliest records of it are from 1320, as mentioned in a few different things. And it was once this big castle that looked out over the marshlands of Denmark and protected the city. And then they took it down in about the 1700s to help put bricks in other parts of the city, I guess. Probably to help build the church that we saw earlier, because that was a big undertaking. And now it's just this excavated mound, and there's some different archaeological pieces on it. There's a few structures like this little brick room that I'm here in, and it used to be part of a tower, and then there's a statue as well on the far side that was put here in the early 1900s, like about 1912 I believe. It's really cool. It's this lady on a Viking boat front. So some little insights into the Viking life here. It was kind of interesting. I loved seeing the different museums and stuff. Denmark is a huge home of the Vikings. Hope you enjoyed this Scandinavia series here with Sweden last week and Denmark this week. It was fun contrasting differences. Learned a lot about the Vikings, and it was a good time. And so this video is dedicated to Jim and Luann Lacey. Thank you so much for your graduation contribution and your support for me and the channel. It goes a long way. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And to everyone else watching, make sure to click that little subscribe button. You know, come hang out. We got more videos coming up. We're going to South America. We got some Colombia stuff coming up, so it's gonna be a lot of fun. Come hang out. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, and you know, you get to see some more fun videos. And if you're interested in any of the gear that I use, I have links in the description below, so go check those out on Amazon. If there's one message I want you to get from this video or any of my videos, it's the Vikings made a lot out of rough circumstances. They come from the cold, frigid north. They didn't have a lot of goods, but they went out and created the world that they want. They might have done it a little violently, and so I don't recommend that you do it violently, but I do recommend that you get out there, take that vision that you have, chase your passions, and go create the world.